three powder boards, three boards I've gotten to ride a lot the last few weeks, and really like give you guys a comparison of these three boards. So behind me, we got the Jones Ultra Mind Expander, the Capita Spring Break Tree Hunter, and the Battalion Surfer. So three boards I've spent a ton of time riding the last few weeks here in Whistler. So we've actually gotten just a ton of snow the last few weeks here in Whistler. Lots of days, like over 20, 30 centimeters. And then even back in December, had a great time riding some of these boards too. So wanted to make a video about this. I know there's lots of requests on the channel asking people like how these boards compare to each other, how these boards compare to the Orca that I rode last year, and just like my overall impressions. So I wanted to do that. I'm also doing this as a live video. So if you guys have any questions, you can definitely hit me up in the live chat. Or if you're rewatching this video, just hit me up in the comments. But yeah, I'm gonna talk to you guys about these three boards and then answer some of your questions live. And yeah, if you guys like this video and you like the format, give it a thumbs up. And also remember to subscribe. But yeah, so three boards I've been really stoked on. I'll give you guys a little bit of a background. So I actually bought two of these boards. So the Battalion Surfer, I bought like back in like July, along with the Jones Ultra Mind Expander. And I was looking for a really aggressive board, which I was thinking with the Jones, and one that was a bit more mellow, like the Battalion. So that's why I picked up those. Just gonna move the camera back slightly so you guys can see the profiles a bit more. Here we go. And then the Spring Break, actually Capita sent that board over to me. And yeah, they asked me which one I wanted to test out and ride. And I've always had my eye on the Tree Hunter. So that was like a really appealing board to ride. And I think it looks like a work of art. It looks really cool. So yeah, three boards. And you know, I really wanted to be able to ride these boards a lot before giving you guys my feedback on them, because they are like actually three very different boards. And one thing I discovered too through riding these boards is that the conditions where you actually ride snowboards really determines like, I think boards are made for different types of conditions and for different types of mountains. So here in Whistler, Whistler is like a very steep mountain comparatively, and yeah, the snow is a bit heavier. So I got to, and there's lots of tree riding too. So I got to ride these boards through all conditions, through trees, through different kinds of powder, on the groomers, and also in the alpine as well, like on some steep alpine runs. So where should we start? Yeah, three boards, three very different. Oh, and then the bindings I've been riding on them have mostly been, pretty much all been either the Union Forces or the Union Atlas. And I think that's like a good call for these boards too. Like a stiffer binding is what you want to go for. But yeah, let's start off with, what was the first board I rode? I'm trying to remember. I think the first board of the season, what did I ride? Let's start, oh, it was the Battalion Surfer. So on Whistler opening day, I rode the Battalion Surfer. And so my impressions of the Battalion Surfer is that first, it is a very like, it floats very well in the powder. So while you're riding it, because it has like the really fat nose and the really cut out swallow tail, riding through deep powder is like very effortless. So as you're riding through the powder, floats really well. So that's the first standout. The second standout is that it does really well in tight trees, or like for just making like quick turns. And I think that's because, as you guys can see, there's sort of like the spoon shape to the Battalion Surfer. So that spoon shape allows you to like make really quick turns through the trees. And it's like also got, I think, a shorter side cut too. So that short side cut allows you to make quick turns. So it's a very like nimble board, really quick to turn, floats really well. I think those are the three like biggest strengths of the Surfer: the float, the maneuverability, and just like how agile it is. So I think the perfect conditions for the Battalion Surfer are for mountains that aren't too steep, that have some pitch, but like intermediate style mountains, places if you're really into tree riding and you've got some like trees to maneuver through at at sort of like an intermediate pitch, then I think the Battalion Surfer is like perfect for that because it does float so well. It is like so maneuverable, and yeah, it just makes powder riding very effortless. Um, I'd say if I'm riding in Whistler and I know that it's going to be, so it's been interesting because all these boards I've taken them out in different conditions. So I've kind of found like what each board does like really great. So Battalion Surfer, if it's a day, for example, riding Whistler and sort of like some intermediate style trees, and the powder is going to be deep, and I'm going to be doing lots of like quick turns, then the Battalion Surfer is the one I'm bringing up because it's so maneuverable. Gets you like you can just like sneak in between trees, floats really well. Even some like small drops into powder, like it really helps you to land. So that's like the perfect place for the Battalion Surfer. So that's where I've been loving this board the most. Um, I guess like, so that's the strengths. Some of the maybe weaknesses of the Battalion Surfer is that in really like fast, like high speed conditions, if I'm uh, um, let me think. So like high speed and steep. I sometimes feel like it doesn't have enough stiffness to it to give me control. So if you're looking for a board that for riding at higher speeds, it may not be the one just because once you take it past like a certain speed or like a certain steepness to the mountain too, it starts to get a little bit chattery. I think that's because it's not like the stiffest board in the world. It's more like a mid flex or like a 4.5 or a 5 out of 10 on stiffness. So because it's a bit softer, it also doesn't like allow you to really like start riding fast or to really like feel in control in steep conditions. So I think that's one weakness is that if it gets too steep or too fast, it starts to feel a little bit wobbly. And then the other thing is maybe if you're into doing like drops, it's not like the most like doesn't feel like the most stable in drops because it also has the swallowtail. So you don't have like all that tail to kind of catch you and help you ride something out. So yeah, big airs, drops, high speed, really steep stuff is maybe not the best board. But I do think that this board is really designed for cruising through the trees, and that is where it's the most fun. So yeah, that's the quick lowdown on the Battalion Surfer. I've actually had the chance to ride this on the groomers too, and like carving on the groomers, it's really fun as well. So just like carving, rolling through the groomers, it goes like, it feels really quick edge to edge when you're carving because of the 3BT, those raised contact points on the sides. So yeah, as you carve, this board feels awesome. All right, which board should we talk about next? Which one was the next one I rode? Maybe we'll go to a board that feels totally different from the Surfer, and that's the Jones Ultra Mind Expander. So the Jones, the Ultra Mind Expander, I think it definitely lives up to like what I thought it would do. So this board, I think for me, if I had a day of riding in the Alpine, riding at high speeds, and a day where I knew I was going to be doing some drops, I would bring the Jones out because it's a stiffer board. It's not like it's a stiffer board. It has a decent sized tail, and yeah, just it also doesn't have like the biggest nose on it either. So you have a feeling, and the Jones actually also has a spoon shape to the nose as well. So for riding at high speeds, the stiffness definitely gives you that feeling of confidence. There was a day, a few days ago where I was riding through powder and I was just basically straight lining it and like doing like drop to drop to drop. And the Jones just felt like super stable under my feet because of the stiffness the whole way through. So that I think is its biggest strength is when you're going straight through deep powder, charging at really fast, you just feel like you have so much control because you can just go and you're just, yeah, hitting drops, landing in control. The tail's got enough stiffness to it. The camber of the Snowboard, it has positive camber, which is not that common in powder boards, but the full camber of the Jones actually makes it feel like you're really in control too. So yeah, that camber feeling helps you land drops, helps you ride with speed and just feel in control. The other thing about the Jones that I love is that when you're in the Alpine, and if you're on like a steep slope, or if you have like just like a big powder bowl in front of you, you can just do like really big turns on the Ultramind expander. And with each like big turn, you just feel very much in control. Um, and yeah, you can just like ride with speed and feel good. So definitely the highlights of this board are drops, riding with speed, big alpine bowls. It's also got some like mellow magnet traction down the edges, and that helps you if you're like on a steep slope and you need some grip. Um, and also the nose too, how it's kind of have the spoon shape to the nose, the 3D spoon shape, really feels like pretty mellow as well, rocking from edge to edge. Another place that this board shines too is on the groomers and for carving. You really feel like you have like a missile like under your feet. It just wants to go so fast and like get onto an edge and carve from rock from edge to edge. The days that I've been riding with friends on this board, I feel like I'm always like just riding past everyone just because it has such a fast base. And yeah, for whatever reason, like the stiffness too, just makes you want to go straight and fast on it. So that's another place that this board stands out is in groomers. So those are the highlights. I would say one thing with the Ultramind expander where it's not like the most effective is in like tight trees. So if you're going through tight trees and you need it to be very maneuverable, sometimes it feels like you've really got to make that extra, like give it some extra effort to like make quick turns to get around. It's not as like playful and as surfy as the Battalion. You definitely have to actually put some effort into turning this board in tighter trees. So I would say that that's maybe the one area that, like if I was going up and I knew I was riding some just mellow trees, I probably wouldn't take the Ultramind expander just because it's a little bit too aggressive. But the days that I would take this board out is if I was going to the peak of the mountain, if I was riding alpine, and if I was doing drops at high speeds, I would definitely be taking this board. So two totally different boards. This one's, the Surfer is more mellow, more made for like cruising between trees, and the Ultramind expander definitely made for like riding fast, doing drops, and yeah, just getting aggressive out there. So then the third board in the trio here is the Capita Spring Break Tree Hunter. And this one was like a board that was, yeah, I kind of got just before the season started. Capita reached out to me, and of all their boards in the powder lineup, I definitely want to try this one the most. And yeah, I was super pleased with this one as well. Definitely has its place to ride, and maybe some other places you don't want to take it to. But yeah, this one is probably the best at floating in powder. So I don't know if you guys it's kind of hard to tell right now. They're not all perfectly lined up, but I think that the Tree Hunter actually has the widest nose. So, or at least it feels like it does, because when you're riding through powder, the Tree Hunter definitely feels like it floats the best out of all these boards. Like the float is probably the best float I've ever experienced. Just that wide nose, as you're riding, you just feel like the nose is just plowing through the snow, like keeping you on top. And if you have any like little obstacles in your way, like short trees or anything, like the Tree Hunter just goes like straight through it. So that feels amazing on the Tree Hunter, just the how much it floats. It's also a board that's pretty maneuverable through the trees. Similar to the Surfer, where you can kind of like make those quick turns, very quick, very maneuverable, and just feels like in the deep stuff, you can just easily swerve between anything. Yeah, so that's been super fun. The other place this board has been fun is in the Alpine, when there's been powder. So if I'm riding in powder and I've got like a big open bowl, this board feels like really good riding with some speed, going through the powder. I think it feels a little bit stable too, because it does have more of a tail. So it doesn't have like a total swallow tail, it just has like a small cutout tail. So it still feels like you have some stability, like riding with some speed through powder. So that's been really fun. And then similar to the Jones, there has been days where I've been taking the Tree Hunter out and doing some like small drops into powder, and it feels good. It feels good though, I think only when the powder is really deep. That's when it feels the best. Yeah, and then this board is also like flat to rocker. So I think that flat to rocker profile also makes it like very maneuverable through trees and like through like powder where you're making quick turns. So it feels pretty nimble too as you ride. But then on the opposite side, so the flat to rocker profile does make it feel a little bit unstable when doing drops when it's not like totally deep, because you almost feel like there's nothing to kind of catch you as you land. You're almost landing and feeling like a little bit like you don't have the most control front to back because of that flat to rocker profile. So not the best board for doing drops. And then the other place is like, yeah, when you're really starting to get a lot of speed and it's steep, you also feel like you don't have the most control just because it's that has that flat to rocker profile. So I would say like this board, it's really designed for intermediate slopes, small drops, deep powder, and yeah, just being able to cruise through the snow. And definitely on deep powder days. So if here in Whistler, if we had a day that was like the deepest pow day of the season, like over 40 centimeters, the spring break is definitely the one I would take out just because it floats the best. So that would be like the for really deep days, or maybe for like a Japan trip, I think like the Tree Hunter would do the best just because the nose is so fat and it floats so well. Um, the other place I've ridden this board is on groomers, and it does well on groomers when carving. But if you get into some moguls or some bumpy stuff, then the Tree Hunter is not like the best board for that. You start to feel like it's throwing you around a little bit. I think because it's a little bit softer and because of that flat to rocker, you don't feel like you have the most control if you're going through bumps or moguls. So that's another place where it's not really the best board, but I think it is made for really deep powder. Sweet guys. So yeah, three boards, three totally different boards. Yeah, the Battalion Surfer definitely made cruising through the trees, intermediate style trees for sure, not high speed, really good flow and just being able to cruise and turn quickly through that powder. The Jones Ultramind Expander, aggressive board, great for like riding at high speeds, alpine, doing drops, all that kind of fun stuff, even carving on the groomers. And then the Spring Break Tree Hunter, really fun again in the trees for cruising, intermediate style slopes, and yeah, those really deep powder days. Yeah, if I could just sum up each board in like a very short, like 2 or 3 words, this one would be Spring Break would be deep powder. The Surfer would be cruisy trees, and the Ultramind Expander would be like aggressive big mountain. So I think that sums it up. But yeah, I hope that hope you guys found that useful. There's links to these boards in the description if you guys want to check them out and learn more about them. But yeah, let's check out, see who's on here and answer some of your questions. Let's give a few shout outs as well to some of the people who are tuning in here. We got Marcus from New England. Manolo's watching from the Ice Coast. We got Andreas Schubert on here as well, saying, did you hear about the new Jones limited board they announced today? Mind Expander Twin and Stormwolf. Yeah, Andreas, I did hear about that. I definitely want to try out the Stormwolf for sure. Actually, somebody from Jones reached out to me, and hopefully like I asked them if I could get a Stormwolf. So Andreas, if they send me one, we can both ride it, man. Bad Riders with the super chat as well, saying Jones Stormwolf versus Never Summer Harpoon. Hashtag Orca Killers. Wow, that's pretty cool. I'll have to look into that Never Summer board. We got Sam watching from California. Robert saying, man, I want to get more boards now. Yeah, man, it's pretty fun. It's like one thing about trying out different boards is that it really does make the experience of snowboarding like completely different depending on what board you're on. So yeah, it's super fun trying out different boards. Yeah, I almost want to like keep getting more too and like cycling through. It'd be cool if there was a program where you could just grab a board, take it up for a day, and then yeah, the next day just keep keep getting different boards. It's super fun, but it is fun to go back to the board you love on like for those specific days too. Jesse says, I just ride any board in the POW. Yeah, Jesse, yeah, you can definitely make anything work, man, for sure. Right. Diego saying with the super chat, just saying thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Diego. Thanks for watching, man. We got Caden watching from Minnesota. Jake says, how do you feel about the Capita DOA for an intermediate rider? Jake, yeah, man, that's like a good setup. I mean, the DOA is a bit stiffer, so it's going to give you stability, riding with speed, around the resort, on groomers, that kind of thing. I think if you're looking to get into the park and tricks, and maybe check out like a softer board, something maybe like the Capita Ultra Fear, something like that is a bit more suited for park riding. But if you like riding the groomers, then the DOA is a lot of fun too. Ethan wants to know, when are you coming to Hood? I don't know. It depends on when they open the border, but I hope to get back to the High Cascade snowboard camp in the summer. So we're trying to work out that when I'll be back there. So I'll let you guys know. Preface says, if I was going to buy my first POW board, would the Slush Slasher be a good option? Yeah, definitely. I think like the Slush Slasher is a good one because it's like a lower priced powder board. So it's a good one just for getting your first POW board for sure. I think it's like probably similar. I think it's the type of board that's good for like cruising through powder. Yeah, deep conditions. Probably, yeah, if you're like a beginner intermediate for powder, I think the Slush Slasher is like the perfect board. Andrea is saying, I'll let you borrow it the next POW day that I gotta work. Oh, I missed it. Which board are you gonna? Oh, the Gentem stick. Thanks, Andreas. Yeah, the Superfish. Sweet, man. Thank you. Alex saying, sup, Kev. Been loving the powder videos lately. Awesome. Thanks, Alec. Preface saying, I want to thank you for teaching me how to snowboard again like 4 or 5 years ago. Awesome. I was stoked that the videos helped you out. Sam says, do you change your binding angles for different conditions? Yeah, definitely. So on these boards, my bindings are set up. The front binding is at like +18 and the back binding is -9. So that's my typical powder stance just because I'm like riding mostly in one direction. Ocher says, do you have been shredding in Europe yet? What's your favorite ski resort in Europe? Oh man, yeah. So just in September and October, and August, I was in Zermatt, and I was also in Hintertux, Austria. But yeah, Zermatt, Switzerland, and Hintertux are both like really fun places. I actually had like a deep powder day in Hintertux in October, like a 50 centimeter powder day in Hintertux. So that was like one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So if I could, this last few months, definitely Hintertux was my favorite, just because we had that like 50 centimeter pow day back in October. Marcus wants to know, what is some good Burton powder boards? Yeah, check out. They have a bunch of different ones. I know like they have the one hitter. I think there's one called like the Moon Buggy. And then also like the fish, they have like the 3D fish too. So there's a few different Burtons that are cool looking POW boards. Tony says, could you compare the Storm Chaser versus the Spring Break powder? Yeah, the Storm Chaser I think is like totally different from these three. It's definitely, yeah, deep powder, cruising through the trees kind of board for sure. Very different. It's maybe most similar to the Battalion Surfer, just because it has that big swallow-tailed nose. But yeah, definitely a good one for cruising through trees. Hudson wants to know, what is the biggest drop you've been off? Maybe like a 20-foot drop. There was a cornice I did maybe 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer. and I have a photo of it somewhere around here. There's a photo, and yeah, it was pretty big. It's maybe 20 feet, and yeah, but when you get to those big drops, you really need like a steep landing, and sometimes that's hard to find. But yeah, drops are super fun. El Stacker's on here. El Stacker says, "Where's everyone watching from?" El Stacker's over in Boise, Idaho. Dewey says, "Do you detune your edges on the GNU headspace? Worried about catching an edge with the magnet traction?" Yeah, I do. So yeah, you can kind of like run. So I have like this, actually this little stone here. It's called like a gummy stone, and you can kind of rub that on your edges just to kind of give them a quick detune. But you definitely can. And yeah, with the GNU headspace, I was a little bit worried about catching an edge, but I never did. Surprisingly, yeah, they have the magnet traction there, but yeah, it feels good on tubes and stuff, so it's pretty safe. But you can give them a quick rub with one of these like gummy stones. You can probably buy this in a snowboard shop. Seth wants to know, "Hey Kevin, for a Whistler POW freeride board, which would you prefer? Karua Dart, Endeavor Archetype, Battalion Camel 2, or Yes Hybrid?" Um, Man, that's a tough one. Yeah, all those boards look really, really cool. I don't know which one I would want. Maybe I'm pretty stoked to try out a Karua board. So I've yet to ride a Karua, so maybe I would go for the Karua Dart. But I'd have to I'd need to like ride those boards and test them out to like give any advice on which one would be the best. Durag saying like smashed. Awesome. Thank you, man. Thanks for the like. We got 140 people watching, 68 likes. Awesome, guys. We got Tony watching from Vancouver, Anthony watching from San Diego. Chris says, "Meet up at Mount Bachelor on Tuesday." Man, I want to come down to Mount Bachelor. It's like one of my favorite mountains, but yeah, I can't get down there from Canada at the moment. But yeah, Mount Bachelor, honestly, the interesting thing about all these different paddle boards is I think each one really does better depending on the mountain you're riding it at. A place like Mount Bachelor, kind of like that intermediate tree style mountain, um, with like big wind lips and things. I would like, yeah, which one? I would probably take something. I'd probably take the Battalion Surfer to Mount Bachelor, just because um, actually, either of these two, the Tree Hunter or the Surfer to Mount Bachelor, I think would be perfect, because you can just like cruise through those trees, and like it's such a fun mountain. Maybe if the peak chair was open on Mount Bachelor, which is not open too often, that's where the Ultramind expander would come into play, would be up at the peak. But other than that, through the trees, I would take one of these two. Tony's saying, "Are you stuck at Whistler?" Yeah, we are kind of stuck here. I guess like with everything that's going on, you're supposed to like stay in your hometown, and I guess Whistler is like a pretty nice place to be stuck at. Super chat from Bad Riders, thanks man, says, "All this POW talk has me dreaming of Japan. Knowing what you know, what do you think is the penultimate board for Niseko?" The penultimate. Oh man, for Niseko. I think like, oh man, it's tough. I really loved riding the Orca in Niseko. So if someone were to ask me, I'd probably say the Orca. The Orca is awesome, but it depends on what kind of riding you want to do, Adam, in Niseko. So for riding in the trees on like a super deep day, I'd probably take one of these two boards. But I also like charging hard in Niseko and like doing drops. So if it was a day where I was feeling like I wanted to do some drops and go big and ride with a lot of speed, I would probably take up the Ultramind expander. So on days where I was feeling really good and really like just getting some air, take this board. But for cruising through the trees, take these two. Flippin' saying, "Hey Kevin, just got into snowboarding because of you. Wondering what a good all mountain board would be." Um, yeah, something like possibly, man, there's so many. Maybe check out the DOA. It's kind of a good all mountain board. Gives you stability. You can ride with some speed. Pretty versatile. You can ride it in like lots of different conditions. So something like the DOA, or there's some comparable boards out there too. Bad Rider saying, yeah, we'll revisit that question after I test out the Harpoon and Stormwolf for sure. Tony says, should you always choose a shorter board for powder? Not always, because it depends on what you want to do in the powder. So short boards do really well when you are, I think short boards are perfect when you're cruising through like intermediate style terrain, like not too steep. Um, and when it's like short and fat, it really helps you to float and just like make quick turns, very maneuverable. And yeah, you're just floating as you cruise. So that's what short boards I think are best at. When you start riding with speed and just doing like bigger lines and bigger turns, that's when you need your powder board to also be a bit bigger, I think. So yeah, it kind of depends on your style of powder riding. So like intermediate speed and intermediate terrain through the trees, definitely short helps. But once you start picking up speed and maybe doing some drops and riding some really steep terrain, then that's when you need that length. All right. Yamaha says, hey, Kevin, just wondering how the Orca handles on groomed or slightly icy runs. The Orca handles really well because it has magnet traction running down the side. So that magnet traction, it's like a bread knife. It just like grips the ice and allows you to like hold and ride right through it. So it handles like super, super well on groomed runs and especially on ice. Um, I was thinking of getting the heavyweight Amon helmet hood you got in your package from a little while ago. Have you used the MiFi mask yet? And what do you think of them? Yeah, I think the MiFi, so he's talking about the Anon goggles with the mask that has the magnet that like clips up to the goggles. I think it's an awesome idea. The problem for me with that is that I don't like to ride with anything over my face. I always have my mask down because I just find it just gets like I just don't like that feeling. So for me, I just prefer to have a regular balaclava and just have it kind of down by my chin. And then when I get into line or onto the gondola where you have to wear a mask right now, I just like tuck it up on underneath my goggles. So for me, it's like I don't wear it because I don't like being too warm around my face. But our friend Andreas, he has the Anons as well, and he's always using the magnets on the mask. So I think it's a really good idea. It works really well, but for me, I'm not a fan personally. But yeah, most people I know like love that system. El Stacker sending some potatoes. Thanks, man. All right, let's do a couple more questions. Nathan, what's your favorite board you've ever ridden, or does it depend on the situation? If so, do you have a favorite board for each situation? Park, freeride, POW, etc. Wow, man, yeah, it's a tough question. I'll just tell you some of my favorite boards. Like excluding these three from the last couple of years, I've really loved riding the Libtech Orca. I've loved riding the GNU Headspace in the park, Capita Super DOA in the park. Yeah, those are a few. So different boards for different conditions for sure. Ryan wants to know best time of year to buy gear, sales and discounts. I feel like nowadays, like with online shopping, there's always like deals popping up. Things are going on sale at different times. I think probably the best time, like I got two boards for half price last year just in the middle of the summer. So I bought two boards then. But yeah, if you don't mind buying boards from the previous year, then you can get really good deals in the off season. So off season from like, I don't know, March until October, you can usually get some excellent deals on last year's stuff. So yeah, check out online. And also if you sign up for like that website's like newsletter or whatever, they usually give you like an additional 10% off. So look out for that as well. Nick wants to know, what do you think of Lago snowboards? I haven't ridden a Lago yet, but I know that Casey Willax rides Lago snowboards and loves them. So yeah, they look cool. I'd be stoked to try one out someday for sure. Preface says, do you think the Capita DOA is a worthy upgrade as an all-around all-mountain board from a GNU 2015 carbon credit? Yeah, I would say, I don't know how stiff the carbon credit is, but it kind of depends. Like if your riding has advanced since then and you feel like for me, the more like I feel like my riding is improving and the more challenging terrain I ride, I'm like leaning more and more towards stiffer snowboards that are more like full camber, and the DOA is definitely is more camber and I think more stiff than the carbon credit. So yeah, maybe it could be a worthy upgrade. I feel like if you feel like your riding's progressed and you want a board that's a little bit stiffer and more aggressive, so like it could be the one. Nathan's saying, have you seen the new Golden Orca? Looks pretty rad. I have seen it. Yeah, it looks really cool. Um, yeah, I'm sure there's some pretty funky orcas coming out next year. Looking forward to checking them out. And Santa is saying Rosignol sushi. Yeah, so the Rosignol sushi is like a really fat, short board. I think, yeah, great for deep powder and like, yeah, like that intermediate sort of terrain, kind of mellow terrain where the snow is really deep and you just want to like cruise. I think that's where the sushi is the best. Freddie says, you forgot the LibTech MC Wayfinder. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a cool board too. Another great one for cruising through the trees. All right. And Braden says the 203 Nitro Cannon. Yeah, that's like a massive, massive powder board. I haven't ridden that one yet, but it looks really fun. Sweet. Awesome, guys. So I'm going to end the video there. But yeah, thank you guys for coming to hang out. Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on these three powder boards, the Jones Ultramine Expander, the Spring Break Tree Hunter, and the Battalion Surfer. If you guys want to learn more about these boards, I put links to them below. And yeah, thank you guys for coming to hang out. If you guys have more questions, just hit me up in the comments after the video too. And I'll do my best to answer as many as possible. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hopping on, for hanging out with me. And I'll see you guys in the next one soon. Later, guys.